on our okay. So we got our last person that's supposed to be on our agenda entering the room. Awesome. Okay, well, welcome, everyone. We don't want to take up too much of your time, so we are going to honor our time and start. Thank you to all of you that are able to join us from our local media. We do, as a group of Black organizations, really find this topic to be very important to our community and the community at large. So your presence today, we really do appreciate you for being here. So welcome. Again, my name is Tiana Baptiste Waddell. You spell that TIANA-BATISTE-WADDELL. And we have representation here from JAX Aspire Foundation, myself, the executive director and founder, NAACP. We have Miss Oletha Jones that's here that will be speaking in a little bit. And from Black Lives Matter South Bend, we have Dr. Dave Bryant, who is on our agenda. In addition to our agenda, we have community folks that also are on our agenda to speak. We have Bill Sniadecki that will speak later. Henry Davis Jr. is on the call, and there may be others that join that may want to speak later on in our agenda. But again, my name is Tiana, and I am the founder and executive director of JAX Aspire Foundation, a parent and child advocacy. The Black children continue to be discriminated against in South Bend schools due to the district's complete failure to abide by the court-ordered consent decree to desegregate in a variety of ways in the school district. On Wednesday, November 20th, the corporation announced its preliminary decision to close Coquillard Elementary School, a predominantly Black American school, and repurpose the site as the St. Joseph Career Hub, investing more than $10 million into the hub for children across the entire county of St. Joseph, opening doors for students that go to schools with already much opportunity and access. This preliminary decision was made without the United States Department of Justice approval. In addition, the corporation failed to mention the preliminary decision in their quarterly report that was just submitted to the Department of Justice last month. And finally, in addition, they failed to communicate with the community to get their buy-in as well. This decision will have a detrimental impact on Black students and their peers, similar to the impact we saw at the beginning of this school year, where Dickinson was simply not prepared for the kinders through fifth grade cohort that came from Coquillard this year, and facilities was the main issue. And then there's unforeseen impacts when you close a school in a community, with the largest being the enabling of intergenerational poverty. The corporation needs to invest in Coquillard Elementary School as well as other elementary schools across the district that educate Black students per the court order consent decree. We do not need a career hub at Coquillard when the corporation currently provides career and technical education at all of the high schools it has remaining. And so at this time, I'm going to give the video or whatever you want to say over to Ms. Jones from our NAACP local chapter.
Okay, thank you, Tiana. And I'm happy to represent our president, Ms. Trina Robinson, as she is ill this evening. And I'll jump right in by expressing, we have many concerns in regard to this whole process, and we have been expressing that along the way. But one of our main concerns at this particular time in regards to Coquillard is something that goes to the heart of what we have been expressing for years, probably the last 2 decades, and that is the difference in the way certain schools and students and their parents are being treated. There is a stark difference in which the superintendent, enabled by our board, is approaching the intended changes to Kennedy, LaSalle, compared to Coquillard and Dickinson. It is unbelievable. When you consider the fact that the students at Coquillard have endured the empowerment zone experiment, the end of the empowerment zone, temporarily assigned to Dickinson, then 3 weeks later, back to Coquillard. All of this at the beginning of the school year. We don't even know how these students have adapted and navigated all of those changes, but now they're proposing to further disrupt by closing the school. In 2017, the school board placed the fifth graders back at the elementary level for the Focus 2018 plan. That didn't work because they put the fifth graders back into the elementary level. So how do they propose merging the entire elementary level in with the middle school level? This is not only poor planning, in our opinion, this is abuse. When you compare the approach that they're taking and providing to Kennedy and LaSalle and their parents, they're taking their time, reassuring them that things will be done appropriately, taking care to establish a school within a school. And we certainly realize that the Kennedy LaSalle will be the K-8 alternative in that region, but there are other things to consider. There are other disparities that we're concerned about, disparities in the kinds of programs, in the resources, in the qualified training of teachers and staff. So there are a lot of concerns, and we have already expressed these concerns to the board and to the superintendent, and we have forwarded to the Department of Justice as well. And we do intend to place this on the judge's docket.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Jones. Now giving it over to Dr. Bryant. You're on mute, Dr. Bryant.
There, that's better. Yes, good afternoon. My name is Dave Bryant, and I am one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter here in South Bend. And I am here because I would like for us to keep in mind that it is important to look at these fundamental social justice questions. Black Lives Matter has worked here in South Bend resting on 7 pillars of justice, each of which is relevant to the proposed closing of Coquillard: economic empowerment, environmental justice, housing, police accountability, Black empowerment, education, and trauma-informed care. The work of Black Lives Matter here in South Bend is directed by the voices of citizens who are impacted by the justice issues. And for this particular press conference, I would like to speak particularly to Black empowerment, education, and trauma-informed care. Black empowerment, in terms of South Bend Community School Corporation's history of making impulsive decisions that negatively impact school children, mismanagement, incompetence, and most egregiously, lack of community, as in parental involvement and input. As Olitha Jones was saying, this is an emerging issue. It has a long history. It has been approached over and over again through time. And so we are most concerned as a group of organizations about questions like why Coquillard, especially when compared with the treatment of other schools that are also supposedly being addressed in terms of the quality of education there. But most concerning of all is that the Department of Justice has not been consulted in terms of this closing. South Bend Community School Corporation has been under a consent decree for years. And still, there's a disconnect between decisions that get made here in South Bend and the requirements of the decree, even though the requirements are clearly laid out. In terms of education and the justice issues related to education, the requirements for eligibility in terms of the CTE list that absolutely ensures there will be very few or no Black students who will qualify. There's an existing wait list. Yes, there'll be these hundreds of slots, but there's already an existing wait list, and we're not hearing how many Black and Brown students are on this wait list. There is a history of disproportionate rates of disciplinary actions within the South Bend Community School Corporation. We have talked about this, we as Black Lives Matter, our other partner organizations who were looking at how many disciplinary actions based on attitude are assigned to Black students. And if you have these disciplinary actions, you are not eligible to be a part of the CTE programs that are being created. And so if there are already these disparities, the long history within the South Bend Community School Corporation and the basis of the consent decree with Department of Justice leaves us in this very clearly imbalanced and unjust situation in terms of what's going to happen with the closing of Coquillard. And finally, ultimately, and definitely not least of all, is the trauma-informed care required to be able to take a look at, as Ms. Jones was saying, what is the social emotional impact of all this switching around that's happening, not only for our students who are in many cases young and still developing how they're going to react to the world and show up in the world, but also in terms of educators and administrators who now have whole new sets of kids with whole new sets of challenges that they have to deal with in addition to all of the things that are a part of their daily life. We have storehouses of academic research that looks at the impact in terms of social emotional health, but the stories that we get from parents and from the kids themselves are clearly evidence enough that the way these forced reassignments are being handled is going to be detrimental, and in many cases is going to be absolutely destructive in terms of the child's continuing ability and educators' continuing willingness to be able to manage within these structures. So the impact on academic performance, which is linked, by the way, back to the way few Black and Brown students will qualify to be admitted to this career hub, means that this entire situation puts students at risk of not being successful, despite the pretty words that are a part of the announcement related to the CTEs and the career hub.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Bryant. And next we'll have Henry Davis Jr.
Thank you, Tiana. I appreciate it. I'm going to be very brief as I can. Back in 2009, myself and William Sniadecki, Bill Sniadecki, school board member Sniadecki, who's going to be speaking as well, came together to see how a school and city, municipal governments, because they're two different branches, could work together to ensure the improvement of school and city relations, because the two governments should be working in tandem, especially when it comes to planning. Fast forward some years later, the document itself was enhanced, and we had our first meeting between the school board and the South Bend Common Council. Thereafter was supposed to have been a level of planning because of what school closures can and will do to a neighborhood. The idea is to get in front of those type of ideas to make sure that the community is sustained or has an operation or a plan or a map forward for growth. To this day, that has not taken place. As a matter of fact, I'm a bit saddened because we keep suffering these type of blows within our school corporation and on with our neighborhoods. We have to recognize that there is a level of discussion that needs to take place when you're talking about real estate. We can talk about schools and the opportunities that the kids will maybe missing out on, but we have to also talk about the impact that occurs when the school closes within a given area, and what happens to the property value, and what happens to the taxes, etc., that help go to fund the school corporation. So we have to really be very cognizant of what is happening, what's going on. The planning should and must take place between the two governmental factions so that the school corporation and overall the city itself can grow, that the schools that are within these neighborhoods will continue to receive the investment that they deserve. But not only that, that the financial impact of the surrounding areas, including this entire city of South Bend, has the ability to grow and actually be something to offer to generations ahead of us. So it makes more sense, obviously, to continue on with this policy matter that was pushed through. It continues with the idea that we should, not only as elected officials, but also as community members, begin to start planning our areas so that when these type of decisions are made, it won't hurt us as bad. The first thing, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, the first thing in the way that gentrification comes in is always through our school corporation. The city of Chicago has shown us a roadmap to what that actually what happens when the schools are closed. They've had over 50 schools closed and predominantly Black neighborhoods over the last several years. And you're looking at a level of crime that has been unprecedented. You're looking at the real estate being taken down to a very low level. You're seeing gentrification happen at a very, very high level where you have people that live in a neighborhood are not able to acquire the property in the neighborhood, but you have people from outside the neighborhood and sometimes outside the country that acquire the neighborhood. And we know what happens when we have a lot of landlords in our neighborhoods. So, look, we need better planning. We need better leadership. And thank you so much for allowing me to speak.
Yep, no problem. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Sniadecki, your turn. And we're almost finished for those that just joined us. And then this is recorded for those that just joined us, and I will be sharing the link. Bill, are you there? I can help you come off mute. Okay.
You hear me?
Yep, you're good to go.
All right. And my whole goal is to bring back the schools where it was when a lot of us were in the school. In the last 8 years since I've been off the board, it has, there was some of what you guys are talking about between blacks and whites and Asians and Spanish but nothing like this. We got that descent decree, and and I heard this from Black people that the consent decree was not good anymore. Well, we checked on it, and that's completely false. And so, I follow, which the last 8 years the law hasn't been followed at all. And as far as this topic we're talking about is Coquillard, they said they took a survey of the people, and the people said if we use one of our empty buildings, that they might be in favor of it. Well, they just did the opposite. They looked at it, Studebaker Museum. That's not an empty school building. That fell through. They went to a site they were going to buy towards the airport. That fell through. And so they wanted to get this passed for some reason or another before the new board comes to effect in January. And so they automatically picked the most vulnerable neighborhood of our kids and tried to push that. And as far as the hub, I almost was convinced on the hub, but not at Coquillard. Well, now I totally found out everything they've been telling us is completely not for South Bend. We got CTE programs in every one of our high schools. We got room to add more CTE programs. We don't need to be a hub, because by what they want from South Bend schools, and they're saying $10.5 million now. Well, it was 8.5, and the city was going to throw in 5 million onto that. So, but now the city backed off of that. So now it's back down to 10.5. So I can't believe anything they're telling us. And for I am totally against the hub because all they're doing is using our taxpayer dollars to build a hub, and then we as a board, as taxpayer, will not have any say in it because they want to assign their own people, not just St. Joe County, but from these other hubs that exist. You know, they say we're going to draw people from LaPorte and Plymouth and Elkhart and Michigan and now Garitoni, you know, Clay High School is that's in court right now, but the way it sounds like Garitoni's going to own St. Joe, Clay High School. And as far as I got to call into him now, I want to get together with him and make sure that's what his plans are. And so if he puts a hub in there, and why would South Bend as a whole need another hub? We need to add to our existing high schools. We need to concentrate on the school that they're trying to take away. I want to put more social workers in and teach them to discipline and while they're young enough to and old enough to understand before they get to the middle school level. They're going to have that embedded in them. So we won't have as much disruption. We need to have the social workers and the counselors in there. So when a kid disrupts a classroom, the teacher don't have to go out and spend an hour or so, be handed over to the social worker and maybe have a study hall that kid could go to so he'd be talked to, not send them home.
Right. So Bill, wrap it up one more time for us about Coquillard. One more.
I'm totally against Coquillard. I do not want to destroy another school. The word is that they're planning next year on repurposing Kennedy, and that's another predominantly black school that they're shutting down again. So that's be two primary schools that they're shutting down. So and we got, if starting January, I know at least there's 4 board members that are on the same page.
Okay.
Hopefully the others will turn around.
All right. So we do have maybe 2 more minutes. We have a couple of other community members on the call. If anybody wanted to speak up, now is the time. Maybe 1 to 2 minutes. And if not, we will wrap it up. It's okay. You don't have to come off mute or off your video. Just wanted to honor you if you wanted to speak. Okay. All right, going once, going to. Okay.
Yeah.
So right now, then at this time, if there's any additional questions from the media, I think WSB2, what did you want to ask first? WSBT, I mean. Thought I heard somebody talk from there. Another station, anybody have any questions?
Hi, I'm Rayleigh Deaton. I'm with the South Bend Tribune. Just to understand, is it a complete, are you against any sort of CTE center, or is it just specifically the one at Coquillard? Like, would you be amenable to a center at a different school, for example? I'm just trying to get an understanding of the stance.
Our demands right now are no CTE center and to invest in the elementary schools with that $10.5 million.
Understood. Thank you for explaining.
Yes. Any other questions? WSBT, did you have a question? Okay. All righty. Well, thank you again for your participation. As soon as this link downloads, I will email it out for your review. And if there aren't any other questions, that's all we have. Thank you so much again. We'll see you at 5:30.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.